Hello, everybody. Back once again with some more of my foreign horror. Well, not just horror, but foreign DVDs. I will get round to more Blu-rays soon, as I know a lot more of you are into Blu-rays than DVDs. But I've got a lot more DVDs over the years than I've got Blu-rays, as obviously I've been collecting them a lot longer. Right. So first of all, you've got Lars von Trier. I pronounce it. It might be Trier, but you've got Breaking the Waves with Emily Watson. This is quite an emotional, powerful film, quite disturbing. Not so much in the imagery, but just in the sort of way it plays out and the way you feel for the characters. And again, this one emotional, quite upsetting, depressing. What happens to Bjork, or at least Bjork's character in this? Bjork is a good actress in it because I didn't really know she acted much. Not a massive fan of the musical element of it. I literally don't like any musical films ever, other than The Happiness of the Katakuris, and that's barely a musical, just with a few sort of weird songs amongst the horror and comedy and zombies and that. But I do like Dancer in the Dark, The Idiots. Basically, a bunch of people get together and sort of just try and act like idiots in public and um, cause a problem for sort of people in, say, restaurants and things, and just sort of make them feel uncomfortable. It's quite good, and I wouldn't really say it's disturbing, but it's quite bizarre and weird to watch. Dogville. This is sort of shot like a play. The way sort of all the ground is sort of marked out like a stage with sort of scenery shots and things. Nicole Kidman is good in it. Quite surprised she's in a sort of film like this, to tell you the truth, and she does get sort of subjugated to some violence. It's quite shocking. This is probably his most shocking. Antichrist is probably my favourite of his. A few sort of crazy scenes in it. Quite a strange film, quite bizarre really, but I did quite enjoy this one, but I've not watched it again since. But yeah, quite disturbing. Basically, Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg. This isn't a spoiler as it says this on the blurb, but basically their son dies and then they go to a cabin to sort of try and work it out, and then all hell breaks loose from there. Melancholia. I found this one quite boring actually, to tell you the truth, quite slow. I think it's like nearly 3 hours. Only just over 2 hours actually. It feels longer than that. It's kind of an apocalypse film. Got some for it, like art cards came in this one. I got it from HMV a few years ago, but yeah, I didn't hate it, but I thought it was quite long. Again, this not great. I didn't think Nymphomaniac. It's kind of got real sex in it, but the actual story and that outside of that is quite boring, and quite a lot of the sex scenes are actually quite ugly. They're not really erotic. I guess it's trying to show sort of sex in a real sort of style, rather than how it's sort of glamorized by like the porn industry and that. So an interesting film, but and you get volumes 1 and 2 on that. That's all the Lars von Trier, at least on DVD. And then you've got Man Bites Dog. I think this is Belgian film. Oh, this is quite good. Quite sort of shocking at parts. Basically, a guy's a serial killer, and the film crew's going around with him, sort of recording all of his exploits and doing a documentary of it. But then, as it goes further, the film crew start to get involved, so it does kind of make you question people that watch violence and their reasoning behind it. Cold Prey. This is a good one. Not seen this for quite a while actually, but kind of a slasher film. I think this is it's from Scandinavia. I think it's Norwegian, maybe Danish. In Their Sleep. Don't think I've actually. No, I haven't watched this one yet. Heard quite good things about it. I will be getting round to this soon. If anybody's seen any of these I haven't seen, then let me know your thoughts on it. This one's a classic. Let the Right One In. Not seen the American remake of this, to tell you the truth, but this is a really good vampire film. I'd say one of the more famous sort of films from foreign cinema out there. This is a really good one. Troll Hunter, really fun film. Good CGI, massive sort of trolls in it. Some tense scenes like when they're in the cave and the troll sort of comes and they're trying to hide and escape from him. And then good chase scenes as well. Quite a sort of more of an action sort of fantasy than a horror, I would say. I think this one's pronounced Falla, which is probably Swedish for tell. I think it's Swedish, this one. I know it's a Scandinavian country, so either Sweden, Norway, or Denmark, I guess. Um, yeah, basically these guys go to, I think it's like a little cabin they find in the woods, and they find like a mythical creature, that mythical should I say, that lives there. Um, Dead Snow, crazy sort of zombie Nazi film, some pretty crazy gore in it. Quite a fun film. I do enjoy this one. Then you've got some Guillermo del Toro. So you've got Cronos, which I think is his first film. It's kind of like a vampire film, basically, but these little devices, you can see these like metal scarab bugs sort of feeding on people. Then you've got The Devil's Backbone. It's a really good ghost story. It's kind of got a few stories going on at once with these children that are in this, I think it's like an old sort of school, but it's sort of set during the war. And then there's a ghost story going on, and also there's like a crazy sort of doctor guy in it. It's a good one. I think this is his best film and one of the best films ever, but definitely one of the best sort of foreign films. Again, I know a few people that aren't into sort of foreign cinema who love this film. It's kind of like a fantasy, but it has got a few sort of disturbing scenes. The bit with the wine bottle, if you've seen it, you know what I mean. The Hunt with Mads Mikkelsen. Not seen this one in a while. It's a good film. I can't remember too much about it, but basically I think everybody in his community turns on him. Green Butchers, another one with Mads Mikkelsen. I really like this one. These guys work in a butcher's. I think only one of them, but the other guy that's not Mads Mikkelsen smokes a load of weed. That's probably why the Green Butchers bit comes into it. And then they start making sort of special meat, but I'm not going to sort of tell you where that gets into it. Waltz with Bashir. This is actually an animation about the war and that, but it's pretty disturbing, pretty depressing film. I've only watched that one once, but it's worth a watch. Das Experiment. I don't think it's really a horror, although it is quite sort of disturbing and shocking. Anatomy. It's quite a good one, quite sort of clever. It's got Franca Potente, I think is pronounced. She's good in it. Quite sort of realistic effects in it. This is a really nice film. The Orphanage, emotional, well shot, quite creepy. I think this is probably one of the first foreign films I sort of got into, and that's another nice 2-disc set. Got The Body. Not actually seen this one yet. I will get around to watching this soon. Looks quite good though. It's from the producers of Orphanage and Julia's Eyes, which brings us on to Julia's Eyes. It's about a blind woman. I think she has an eye transplant in it, but then she starts sort of seeing crazy things on the edges of her vision in like peripheral. You don't know whether she's sort of just imagining it or whether there's actual creatures and things out there. And then I think this is the last of this section of the foreign ones. You've got Wreck, which is probably, I'd say, the best found footage film I've ever seen, and a real tense sort of scary film, real high paced. I guess a lot of you know this. I've not ever seen, I think there's Wreck 2 and 3, not maybe even more. I've not heard they're as great, but I will probably get them or get around to watching them sooner or later. That's it for now. I'll be back again soon with another part.